The first thing I would have to say is scrap Trident. Sorry. The money for Trident can be used for to staff the hospitals, not build the hospitals, staff the hospitals. It can be used for to build houses and create jobs. We can enable and empower our young folk for to go out there. They're going to be the future. That's who we're really fighting for. It's not about us. I'm not saying that we're past our best, but you came up saying it. This is about what they need, what they want, and their beliefs. And it's like a wee saying that goes, if you build it, will they come? And they've really got to go out their bed on the 18th, jump out their bed and run down the street for to vote no. I wouldn't go out my bed to run down the street and vote no, sorry. Come at me, but I think the whole vision is, you really want to be sitting on the 19th saying, we should have tried harder, we should have done something. Can I mind to get ready for the G8 and folks said, you really gone there? She says, I go everywhere, didn't care, I go everywhere. But that's part of your life. We're never great for wars, we never asked for wars, we never asked for all this stuff. We're being dictated to how we can live, what we can do. How many more folk are going to die in the street? When will it stop? Just will it stop? I'd like to take Trident and stick it up number 10's backside. Seriously, I really would.
I've seen a lot of these stickers about it says UK okay on the back. And it's like, okay for who? And some people are maybe thinking, I'm doing okay, but it's like really, it's okay for the rich, just as these posters say, okay for the rich, but for the rest of us, most people in Scotland are really struggling to get by just now. There's a huge problem with underemployment. There's millions of workers across Britain who are underemployed, like graduates. I'm working in a factory just now, and there's graduates, master's degree qualified, doing a job for £6.50 an hour, wasted 5 years of uni at £6.50 an hour. And there's also the problem with 0 hours contracts. It's absolutely disgraceful. There's 5 million workers on 0 hours contracts across Britain. In Scotland it's particularly bad. There's no security for working people. It's awful. How are you meant to plan your life with a 0 hour contract? Getting phoned up in the morning and getting told to you're working. It's disgusting. And another thing, I'm just focusing on workers' rights here, but we've got some of the worst anti-union laws in Europe. And sorry, but it's disgusting. I worked in Amazon for 2 years.
Right in front of their car park and wouldn't have let the lorries in and out for 4 years. Get their tax, we never caused a problem.
No, you work in these places and you're just treated like cattle. You're herded about, you've got no rights, 10-hour shifts, minimum wage, treated like absolute dirt. But this is becoming a sort of normal thing across the country, even for skilled workers. It's de-skilling. We've lost all our industry. We've lost all the mines, we've lost all the shipbuilding. The shipbuilding, in 1979, when we went to the referendum, it's a bit before my time, but still know the facts. There was 30,000 workers employed by shipbuilding in Scotland. And the unionists then said, vote no, preserve the shipbuilding, preserve the mines. And then nowadays we've got no mines left, pretty much, apart from a couple of open cast. And the shipbuilding employs 3,000 people. That's 27,000 jobs lost in 30 years. And Britain as a country, we're in a race. David Cameron goes on, but it's quite long. Race to the bottom, exactly. We're cutting workers' rights. We're cutting rights for disabled people. We're cutting rights for everybody. But we're blaming the wrong people. We're blaming immigrants. We're blaming benefit cheats. The same problem, as always, is the system which creates it in the first place. It's the bankers that have caused this crisis, and we're blaming the wrong people. But independence offers a chance to change it, and I don't really want to be fighting for people who only really care about their own selves, because the majority really are struggling.
I'm quite surprised at your friend with the business worrying about that, because seriously they should open another business, because if Ali gets in, then he's going to lower business tax rates. So the whole point is to get the economy up and running again. People with money could have businesses employing people for us to get what we would like fixed within society. Indy Changes has limited people not on 0-hour contracts that are getting their benefits restricted because they're on a 0-hour contract. It makes sense to have the economy up and running again, and I can see why he's doing what he's going to do. He's wanting the economy to start, he's wanting to produce, he's wanting the country to start making again, because that is what has happened. Westminster has shut Scotland down. We are not worth a penny, and they have made us feel that we are not worth a penny. We need to stand up. We need to make sure that we realise that we are worth a whole lot more than what they seem to think we are. These people, yes, they might be settled within their lives, but their lives could improve. And they need to go out and find out why their lives could improve. They shouldn't be asking, what's going to change for me? What's going to make my life better? Well, go and find it. Go and find that information. For starters, it'll give you something to do. And for secondly, you'll not just be voting no because your life's alright. You might actually find something that's actually going to make your life better. So to say that my life is okay, my life's okay. I've got a job, my husband watches the children. There is only one wage coming into my house, we manage. My life is okay. My life could be better. And I want my life to be better. So I go out and look for that, to make that improvement in my life. People that are stagnant in their lives and saying their lives are okay are not looking to be told what's going to be improved in their lives. They're quite happy floating in their okay lives. If they've got money and they've got the sense to do things, they could improve their lives by investing, by opening companies, by doing something for the community. There is so many things you can do. These people don't want to look for it. So it's hard to engage with these people, but you have to tell them, get out there, find it. Find what is going to make a good difference for you. Do you love your country? Do you love who you are? You're okay? We'll make an improvement, because everybody can improve.
I think a strong message for them, and you touched on it there, and I'd already been thinking about it. Poverty costs a lot of money, because poverty has knock-on effects on health, on confidence. Poverty in areas of Glasgow has stolen whole generations of people's potential. There are people there who have gone to school hungry. How do you learn when you're hungry? How do you learn when your parents are working 3 or 4 jobs, you never see them, and the quality of your life is terrible? When your parents have to go to food banks in order to put food on your table, even when they're in work. In work poverty has increased exponentially in the last few years. You know, there are people in these places who are having their futures robbed from them by poverty. And it costs us so much money as a society. It costs us a lot more, actually, because as a society that is as rich as we are, that has food banks, it's an absolute disgrace, and it should, it shames us all that we do. But, that costs money. Poverty, ill health, crime rates are higher because people steal because they don't have. People turn to drugs because they're desperate, they're disenfranchised, they're powerless. All of this costs money. And so if you're actually thinking about it with your thinking head on as somebody who doesn't want to pay more tax because they have enough and they think they're paying enough tax, well, do you know what? You might not have to pay as much tax if we actually tackled root problems of inequality and poverty, and instead of just smoothing over. The Labour Party in the last government brought in tax credits, but tax credits only masked the fact that they didn't allow the minimum wage to keep line with inflation, that they cut the link between pensions and earnings. And so the value of all of these things has disintegrated over the last few years. They won't bring in a living wage so that people actually can afford to work and then not have to go to food banks or not have to go for benefits top-ups. Work should pay. That's it. That's the key. Work should pay, and it should mean that actually the cost is onto businesses that are making huge amount of profits, and it shouldn't be the state that picks up the cost of having low-wage economy. And if you didn't have such a low-wage economy, and you didn't have so much poverty because work was paying and there was incentives for people to go into work, then in actual fact you might not have to pay as much tax. So you have to bring about the kind of decision in people's heads that, you know, there are advantages of tackling root inequality. And so for the people that are conservative sitting there at the top quite comfortable, there are benefits for them as well. But we do need to bring it home to them because they might not have thought about it.
The actual question was, everybody seems to have forgotten, the actual question was, what's one thing will you change? I'll get to that in a moment. I just wanted to say a final thing about this whole business of economics. And as I say, Natalie's pretty thoroughly covered that, and the other speakers have pretty thoroughly covered it. But I will allow that it is one of the things that the No campaign have been quite successful at. For the most part, the Better Together campaign has been a shambles. Blair McDougall would have been fired months ago if there was anybody else that was prepared to move into that job. Nobody wants that poisoned chalice, but the man is a total incompetent. But one of the things that they have succeeded on, and is making the whole referendum debate about economics. It is not. It is about much, much more than economics. It's about society. It's about democracy. It's about the Constitution. But even to the extent that it is about economics, they don't address economics. As Natalie has explained, if you're going to talk economics, then talk the whole of economics. And it is much, much wider and much, much deeper than what is spoken about in the referendum campaign. It's all headline figures and scare stories. We don't get the kind of thing that Natalie's just been talking about. One thing to change. It's a question that pretty regularly comes up at these, so I always have at least a couple of things ready, because there's always a chance that one of these other buggers is going to steal your idea. Yeah, see, it's already happened. So you've got to have a spare. And my first one, my principal one, what one thing would change, and that is to have a written constitution. To me, that is the vital thing. That's I come at the whole referendum campaign as a constitutional issue, not an economic issue. It's not a business we're running. As Ian McWhirter said, a nation is more than a balance sheet. I come at it as a constitutional question. To me, it's about power, it's about sovereignty, and that sovereignty rightfully lies with you, with us, with the people of Scotland, not British politicians sitting in Westminster. We are the people who should be deciding what powers our Parliament has, nobody else. The thing that I would want to change is actually something that I wouldn't want to change. I would want this to stay. This engagement, this political engagement, the diversity of political discourse that has arisen in the past couple of years during the referendum campaign. That has been a change for the better, and I sincerely hope that we can keep that. So maybe it's not a change, but you know what I mean.
My one change would be that we live in a rich country, but we don't live in a rich society. So I'd like to, well, maybe redistribute the wealth and obviously tax the wealthy heavier. And I think a benefit for the wealthy would be that everybody forgets about democracy. We have 9% of the national vote, so even if everybody in Scotland votes for the same political party, our vote has to coincide with England for us to get the party that we want. Why not have 100% of that vote and decide what party we want in power? That's the main issue for me. Not about economics, not about whether we'll have a better standard of life, it's about voting in the party that can give us that better standard of life.
Real democracy.